Hey guys, welcome back, and in this part we're going to go ahead and carry on creating the arm. Last time we made this piece, and now we're going to go ahead and make this longer rod. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reuse this part of Wally. So I'm just going to go ahead and duplicate it, move it out, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go into our front view and cut this in, top view, and cut this in half. So we're going to go ahead and go to our face mode and cut all these faces off, make sure that all these bits are selected. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my vertex mode, select these end vertices and just straighten them out, make sure that they're straight. Okay, so now that we have that, we can go ahead and duplicate this, and I'm just going to go ahead and turn on scale and minus, not 1, but in our channel box we're just going to put a minus sign in front of the scale Z. Ooh, probably not scale Z, so I'm going to undo that, just turn it back here, and it will probably be our scale X. Let's try that. Nope, it's not that one. It's gonna have to be our scale Y then. So I'm just gonna put a minus sign there, and there we go. So now that we got this flipped, I'm just gonna go ahead and move this closer, fairly close. So I'm gonna zoom in, probably about there will be fine. And then now what we're going to do is we're just going to select both of these and go ahead and go to mesh, combine. So now we combine it into one mesh, and now all we got to do is merge these vertices together. So what I'm going to do is go to our vertex mode, select all these ones in the middle. I'm just going to zoom in, make sure that this is going to merge fine. Shift right click, merge vertices, and in the channel box probably 0.01 should do the trick. And let me just make sure it didn't merge things that we didn't want, and it merged just fine. So we got all the vertices that we needed. So now what I'm going to do is just go to object mode, hit smooth, and see how it's working out. There's a bit of a storm outside. Hopefully you can't hear the rain. I can, hopefully you can't. I'll try to get rid of it post-production. So now that we got this out of the way, what we're going to do is we're going to have to go to modify and then hit center pivot, and then rotate this minus 90 degrees. And we're also going to have to go ahead and rotate it this way minus 180. So now I'm just going to go ahead and try to position this in our front view somewhere at the right place. So I'm just going to hit F to zoom in a bit more, and I'm going to go ahead and just move it roughly to the right place. Don't worry about it too much for now. So that looks about fine. And now I'm going to go into my side view, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is the right size. So this bit going to roughly sit at the edge there, and I'm just going to go ahead and scale it this way. I'm also going to go ahead and move this back a bit and scale it up in the center. I'm probably going to scale this a little bit more this way. Okay, so about that looks fine to me. So now I'm going to come out of my side view. I'm going to go ahead and have a look here, see if this is looking good, and that looks okay-ish. This bit looks a bit too big, so what we're going to do is just hit unsmooth, go into our front view. I'm just going to go ahead and select these vertices at the end and just drag them out to give it a bit of a length, because this will be the arm piece. Okay, and again now I'm just looking at this, if this is roughly sitting where it's supposed to be. It looks about the right size, so just going to go ahead and drag this a bit more here. I think this is rotated the wrong way, so I'm just going to select this group because I think I was playing around with this earlier and I messed this up. There we go. So I'm just going to zero both of these out on the rotate X because these should be rotated this way. That's a lot better. So I'm just going to hit smooth and see how it's looking, and that looks pretty good. We might drag this in here a bit more so it actually looks like it's part of it. And I think we're going to go ahead and scale it up a little bit more. So if I just go into my side view and scale it this way, probably about there. Yep, that looks fine. Now I think we're going to go ahead and add in an extra edge loop in here just to make sure that this will keep its shape a little bit better. So I'm going to have one there as well, and then just going to go ahead and hit smooth, see if it's a little bit better or not. Yep, that looks better. Okay, so now we have most of this finished up. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to have a look and see if this is actually the right size or not. So what I'm going to do is just group these three together and then go to modify center pivot and press my insert key. Now I'm just going to go ahead and snap this into the center of this. So holding down V, just going to snap it about there, and then going to go ahead and press insert key again, and now we can go ahead and just rotate this minus 90 degrees, and now we can have a look at if this is actually going to be the right size. So I'm going to go ahead and on smooth, go to my side view, turn on X-ray, and now we can see that these needs to come forward a bit. So I'm just going to select all them vertices and move them to about here, and don't worry about too much about the other line because there'll be a shield kind of thing sitting on top of this. So now I'm going to hit on smooth, and we can go ahead, if I click there and hit my up arrow, we can go ahead and zero out the rotate Y, or we can leave it where it is actually. So now what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and while we got time, we're going to go ahead and start creating this shield kind of thing that sits on top of this. So the way we're going to do this is I'm actually going to go ahead and just steal some of the pieces of this. So I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this, and I'm just going to go ahead and select the faces that we need. So make sure I hit on smooth. I'm going to select all of these, and don't worry selecting those. You can if you want, but it's kind of a waste of time. So now that we have that, I'm going to go up to mesh and extract. If I go into my group, I can go ahead and go to modify center pivot, move this out, and I can go ahead and delete this because we don't need this anymore. And I'm also going to just go up to edit, delete all by type history, and I'm going to drag this out and delete this group. So basically this is going to be the piece that we're going to start with, and we also can go ahead and give this some width. So just going to go ahead and drag this out a tiny bit, and then we can go ahead and delete all these edge loops as well because we don't really need them at this moment in time. So go to my edge, shift, double click, and make sure our loop go all the way around, and then shift right click, delete edge. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and rotate this back where it was. I think it was the X. Nope, it wasn't that. There we go, it was Y. I'm also going to go ahead and rotate this. -90. I'm just going to go ahead and move it where it's supposed to be roughly. Okay, so now that we have that roughly lined up, we can go ahead and start working on this curvature, because this actually goes all the way around. So I'm just going to go into go ahead and select this face, go into my top view, hit F. Now that we have that, we can just go ahead and start extruding. So I'm going to hit extrude, drag this out a bit. Probably to about here. And I'm going to hit extrude again, or G on my keyboard. And I'm going to try to follow this curve a bit and leaving a little bit of a gap. So hit G again, drag out a bit, move in a bit, and I'm going to carry on doing this. Like so. At the same time, I'm also going to go ahead and rotate so it keeps its thickness. I'm going to hit extrude again, drag out. Again, rotate a little bit so it keeps its thickness, and we're probably going to go about halfway to about here. So probably move this a little bit more. Hit extrude again, drag out, in, rotate. And we can always come back to this and sort these vertices out a little bit more. Just gonna do one more, I think. So you can drag, move in, rotate. Might have gone a bit too far. Actually, I think we're gonna do one more, last one to this line here. Go ahead and rotate. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Drag this in a bit more. Now I'm just gonna go through them all and just make sure they're roughly at the right place. And it will be smooth anyway, so it's not the end of the world if it's not super precise, as long as it's roughly at the right place. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. Let's have a look at what we've actually done. And it's looking quite nice. So now what we're going to do is actually we're going to make sure that this is the right size. So I'm going to go into my side view. I'm going to go ahead and select all these top vertices, go into X-ray, and as you can tell it should come out to about here, but we're not going to make it that big, so probably going to drag it up to the bottom of that white line, and then I'm going to select these vertices and drag these out to about here, and then I'm going to do these bottom vertices and drag them down to about there. Okay, so that should be roughly the right size. We can always resize this again if we needed to. So now I'm going to go ahead and isolate this piece, so we can go ahead and add in the edge loops that we need. So we can go ahead and smooth this. So it should be pretty straightforward as always. Well, by now it should be. We're going to need an edge loop here. I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in a little bit more. I'm going to undo this because it was a bit too far, and make sure I put this a little bit closer to the edge, like so. Okay, we're also going to need one here, and that should be pretty good. Now I'm just going to go to the bottom if I find it. Add one in here as well. And now I'm going to go ahead and look at this end. Make sure that we have all the necessary loops that we need. And I think we already got one there. Yep, we do. We're going to need one up here. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. I'm just going to check the bottom bit just to make sure everything's correct, and that looks fine. So now we can go ahead and just hit smooth and see how this bad boy is looking. Seems like there's a little bit of an issue here, and I'm going to go ahead and investigate. I'm just going to hit F so I can move around a little bit easier. That looks okay. Looks okay. Let me just hit smooth again. Right, so it's not looking that bad. I can go ahead and look at this side. That's looking pretty good. Again, this weird smoothing here. So I think what we're gonna have to do is actually add in an edge loop in the middle, just so it doesn't. I'm gonna add one there. We're also gonna add one about here, so it doesn't smooth as far, hopefully. Yep, that's looking better straight away. We just check the other end. My mouse would work. And it seems like we're gonna have to go ahead and add a loop around here, just so this loop don't slide up so far. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to come out of my isolation mode and let's have a look at this whole thing. We're also going to go ahead, go into my front view, and we're going to go ahead and move this a little bit closer. We're supposed to be making sure that this side is not sticking out. And that's looking quite nice. It might be a little bit too tall, but let me just have a look at my model. It is a little tiny bit too tall, so what we're going to do is actually going to go ahead and move this a little bit closer in. Hopefully this is not going to start sticking out. Yep, that's good. And we're gonna go ahead and just lower the size of this a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead, go into my vertex mode, front view, select all of these, and just drag it down a little bit to about there. I'm gonna do the same thing on the bottom. So I'm gonna select all of them, drag them up a little bit. Let me just have a look at how it's looking now. Hit smooth. Okay, so that's looking pretty nice. It seems like we're getting a little bit. Might move this out just a tiny bit to about there to make sure that this piece is not sticking through it at all. But as far as I can tell, it's looking pretty good. We might actually, we're gonna do that in the next part. In the next part, we're gonna go ahead and add this strap for him, and then we can go ahead and start making progress on their hand and their fingers and so on. So I hope you guys enjoyed this part, and I will see you guys in the next part.